All right, so today we're diving into the Arabic language.
Yeah.
And I know what you might be thinking.
Mm.
Arabic, isn't that, like the language of Arabic speaking places?
Yeah.
But we're actually going way beyond that today because it's had such a profound impact on science over the centuries.
Right.
And you sent in this essay called
Oh.
The Beauty of the Arabic Language, a gateway to knowledge and culture.
Oh, excellent.
And I'm super excited to kind of dive into this with you.
Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Yeah.
It's not just about like historical facts though.
Okay.
It's really exciting how the actual structure of the Arabic language like
Okay.
fueled scientific thought
Oh, wow.
and left us with all these words and concepts that we still use today.
So we're going to uncover like this hidden legacy of Arabic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's start with this. Imagine a language that's built like a set of like super precise building blocks.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what Arabic is.
Okay.
It's thanks to this thing called the trilateral root system.
Okay, break that down for me.
Fair.
What is that? How does it work?
Okay, so think of it this way. You've got these three consonants,
Okay.
like KTB,
Uh-huh.
and that forms like a core idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then by adding vowels and prefixes and suffixes, you can create this whole family of related words.
So like a word family kind of,
So,
like
yeah,
in English?
Yeah, so like kataba, which means he wrote.
Sure.
Kitab, which means book.
Huh.
Maktaba, which means library.
Oh, wow.
They all come from that same root, KTB.
So it's almost like each root is like a seed, and then
Yeah.
it grows a whole vocabulary tree.
Exactly. And that makes Arabic incredibly precise, which is perfect for science.
Oh, okay.
You're not just like describing things in general.
Yeah.
You're able to capture like really fine nuances and connections between different ideas.
That's really interesting.
I'm
I mean,
not-
how does that compare to like other languages' structures?
That's a great question.
Yeah, did it give like Arabic a unique advantage?
Well, I mean, a lot of languages do have root systems.
Okay.
But this trilateral one in Arabic is particularly, I don't know, like robust and versatile.
Okay.
I mean, think about Latin.
Okay.
It has a root system, but it's not nearly as flexible.
Mm.
So Arabic's structure allowed for this incredible density of meaning
Yeah.
and a level of abstraction that was just crucial for scientific thought.
So it wasn't just like for everyday conversation.
Right.
It was built for these complex scientific ideas.
In many ways, yeah.
Wow.
And this brings us to, like this fascinating time
Okay.
known as the Golden Age of Islam,
Okay. Yeah.
roughly like the 8th to the 14th centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the Islamic world as like the Silicon Valley of its time,
Okay.
just this like melting pot of different ideas and innovations.
So they were like at the forefront of all this scientific discovery.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Scholars from all over the place
Yeah.
flocked to like Baghdad and Cordoba and Cairo,
Wow.
these big centers of learning. They were translating all these texts from Greek, Persian, Indian traditions
Yeah.
and building upon that existing knowledge.
So Arabic was like this common language that united all those scholars.
Exactly. It was the lingua franca of science.
Wow.
And that allowed for this amazing like exchange of ideas and discoveries across different cultures.
So this wasn't just like preserving old wisdom.
Right.
It was pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Yeah.
Precisely. And the essay actually highlights some really remarkable individuals
Oh, okay.
who like led this charge.
Okay.
Take Jabir ibn Hayyan. He's often called like the father of chemistry.
Oh, okay.
So he kind of revolutionized alchemy.
Alchemy,
Yeah.
like turning lead into gold, that kind of alchemy?
Yeah, well, not exactly the lead into gold part,
Okay.
but
Oh.
he introduced a lot of techniques like distillation
Yeah.
and crystallization,
Okay.
and he laid the groundwork for modern chemistry.
Wow.
And, we own the word alkali,
Oh.
which is still like a really important term in chemistry today.
Wow. That's something I learned in high school chemistry.
Yeah, it has these roots going all the way back to like the 8th century.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he wasn't the only one.
Oh, no, not by a long shot.
Okay.
We also have Al-Razi,
Okay.
a Persian physician who wrote extensively in Arabic.
Okay.
He put together this massive medical encyclopedia
Oh, wow.
called the Kitab al-Haytham.
Okay.
And it was used for centuries, even in Europe.
For centuries. It must have been, like, super comprehensive.
Oh, yeah, it was a game changer.
Really?
I mean, think about it. This was knowledge that went way beyond borders and cultures. It wasn't limited to the Islamic world.
Right.
Al-Razi was also the first person to, like, clearly distinguish between smallpox and measles,
Oh, wow.
which was so important for figuring out how to treat them effectively.
So it was, like, impacting people's lives directly.
Absolutely.
Why?
And then we have the person who actually gave us the word algebra,
Okay.
Al-Khwarizmi.
Okay.
His book was called Kitab al-Muqtasar fi Sab al-Jabra wal-Muqabala,
Okay.
which basically translates to the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing.
That's where we get the word algebra.
You got it.
Wow. And didn't he also do something with algorithms?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
He was the one who introduced the concept of algorithms,
Wow.
which are like the basis of computer science today.
It's kind of blowing my mind to think about it, like how these ideas traveled through time
Yeah.
from like 9th century Baghdad to the computer I'm using right now.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And there are like even more groundbreaking people.
Oh, really?
We could talk about al-Battani, for example.
Okay.
Incredible astronomer.
Okay.
He made these super precise measurements of like celestial bodies
Yeah.
and refined models of the universe so accurately that like his work was used by Copernicus centuries later.
He was mapping the stars without even having a telescope.
Right.
Wow, that's
Boy.
incredible.
Yeah. Are there any other like big names that we should know?
Well, let's not forget about Ibn al-Haytham,
Okay.
who was known in the West as Al-Haytham. He
Okay.
was a master of optics.
Okay.
And his book of optics explained like how light and vision and lenses worked. Like it was a total groundbreaking work
Wow.
that paved the way for inventions like eyeglasses.
So we wouldn't have glasses without him.
Pretty much.
That's incredible.
It's amazing how these scientists were really pushing, you know,
Yeah.
the boundaries of knowledge.
Absolutely.
But it seems like their contributions like go way beyond just those achievements, you know?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
It's a broader legacy that's kind of woven into like everything, like our language, our technology, even the way we think about science today.
Okay.
But to understand that, we need to like really dig a bit deeper into how these scholars actually approach science itself.
Okay, let's dig into that.
All right.
It's really easy to like get caught up in like all the individual discoveries.
Yeah.
But what's even more interesting, I think, is like the way these Arabic-speaking scholars like approach science itself.
Okay.
They weren't just like content with accepting what the ancients said.
Right.
Even, you know, big names like Aristotle.
So they weren't afraid to like challenge what everyone thought.
Exactly.
Okay, so what made them so different?
Well, they put a huge emphasis on like observation, experimentation, documentation.
Okay.
You know, this wasn't just about like coming up with theories.
Yeah.
It was about testing those theories in the real world.
Okay.
Take Al-Battani.
Yeah.
He didn't just like rely on existing models of astronomy.
Okay.
He built observatories.
Wow.
And he made these like super precise measurements and refined the models based on that evidence.
So that sounds a lot like kind of the scientific method we use today.
Exactly.
Would you say they were kind of pioneers in that way?
Absolutely. I mean, they really embraced this idea of reason and empirical evidence.
Right.
Which was like a totally revolutionary way of thinking at the time.
Okay.
It wasn't just about preserving old knowledge,
Right.
but about actively looking for new knowledge and challenging existing ideas.
And that's a huge shift. I mean, it's one thing to like translate and preserve.
Yeah.
But it's another to like question those texts and say, well, hold on a second. What if this isn't actually right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to another really cool aspect of this period,
Okay.
which is the emphasis on translation and like this cultural exchange. They weren't just working in isolation, these scholars.
Right.
They were actively searching out knowledge from other cultures.
Okay.
Translating works from Greek, Persian, Sanskrit, you name it.
So it was kind of like a global network of like knowledge sharing all like held together with the Arabic language.
Exactly.
That's pretty fascinating.
I mean, imagine like these libraries just packed with scholars from all over the world.
Right.
You know, poring over these texts, debating ideas, pushing the boundaries of what we know.
That's amazing.
And Arabic wasn't just like the language of scientific communication. It was like a bridge connecting all these different cultures and traditions.
And that brings us back to like the structure of the language itself, right?
Exactly.
Didn't we say that the trilateral root system actually like helped all of this?
You're totally right.
Like the scientific and intellectual flourishing?
Yeah. We talked about how it lets you be super precise.
Right.
And like nuanced in what you're saying, which is so important for science.
Yeah.
But there's another piece of this too.
Hi.
It's so flexible. Like you can make up new terms for new concepts.
So as they were discovering new things, the language could grow with them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Arabic was like really good at absorbing words and ideas from other languages.
Yeah.
And it like enriched itself in the process. It wasn't a static language.
Right.
It was like a living, breathing thing that kept evolving with science.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
Like this dynamic interplay between language, culture, science.
Right.
I have to say, before we did this deep dive, I never thought of Arabic and science in this way at all.
Yeah, it kind of challenges our preconceptions, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We tend to think of like science is this linear thing, this Western narrative.
Right.
But it's way more complicated than that.
Right. It's more interconnected than we think.
Absolutely.
And it's a good reminder that knowledge doesn't belong to one place or time or culture.
It's a human thing.
Yeah. And we should be open to learning from all these different traditions.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And this whole legacy of Arabic and science,
yeah,
it's not just about these historical facts.
Right.
It's about like a mindset, an approach to knowing. And it reminds us that like human intellectual history is all connected.
So how does this all connect to us today?
Yeah.
What are the implications like now?
Well, I think, first of all, it reminds us that science is global.
Okay.
It's a collaboration that builds on what people did before, no matter where they were from or what language they spoke.
Yeah.
The golden age of Arabic science shows us how powerful it is to collaborate and share across cultures.
So it's a call for inclusivity in science.
Definitely.
Okay.
It's about recognizing all the contributions from all these different cultures and perspectives.
Yeah.
And realizing that science is better and stronger when we embrace that.
That's a really important message, especially now.
Yeah.
It also makes me think, what are we missing out on?
Yeah.
If we only focus on, you know, a couple of languages.
That's a really profound question.
Yeah.
And it ties back to that idea that language like shapes thought. So if we're only working with a few languages, are we like limiting how we think without even realizing it?
It's like we're missing a whole dimension of science.
Right.
Yeah. And what if there are these brilliant people out there whose ideas are just like lost because they don't have access to like the same resources, right?
Or the same platforms
Yeah.
as people who work in English.
Exactly.
And it's not just individuals either.
Okay.
Think about like whole scientific traditions embedded in other languages and cultures. Like there could be all these fields of knowledge, different ways of solving problems that we're ignoring because they're not in English.
Or is overlooking them.
Yeah.
Wow.
It makes you wonder, like, what kind of scientific revolution could we start if we embraced all that diversity?
Right. What could we learn from, I don't know, traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah.
Or like the astronomy of indigenous cultures?
It's really exciting to think about.
Yeah.
And that's where curiosity comes in.
Okay.
We need to be like more curious about the world, about different languages and cultures, and all these ways of knowing that exist outside of our own little bubble.
It's like we have to decolonize how we think about science. Like it's not this one big thing.
Yeah.
It's all these threads of, you know, human ingenuity woven together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the best part is you don't even need to travel to do this.
Right.
You can start right now. Just by looking for resources and connecting with communities that are different from your own.
So we're expanding our idea of what science is.
Exactly.
Yeah, a more inclusive and holistic view of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that takes us back to the beginning of this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
The beauty and power of the Arabic language. I mean, next time you hear a word like algorithm or you use algebra, just think about where it came from. From 9th century Baghdad to our digital age, those words are carrying this whole history of this amazing scientific tradition that still shapes us today.
It's a good reminder that knowledge doesn't have any boundaries and that people are clever.
Yeah.
Like no matter the time or place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been really eye-opening.
It's been great exploring this with you.
It's about more than just like representation, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be about how we actually do science today. Like Arabic was so important for, sharing knowledge back then. What can we learn from that now?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a world that's super interconnected now.
Yeah, more than ever.
But science can still feel really siloed.
Okay.
We have to be more intentional about, like, creating spaces to talk and share. Not just between scientists from different countries, but between people working in different fields, too.
Right. So break down the walls between, like, all the different disciplines. More cross-pollination of ideas. I can see how that could lead to like some cool new discoveries.
Definitely.
But how does language fit into all of this? Because science today is mostly in English.
That's true.
Yeah.
But remember what we said before. Language shapes thought.
Right.
So if we're only using English, could that be limiting us in ways we don't even realize?
It's like we're missing out on, I don't know, like a whole other way of thinking about science.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what if there are all these amazing scientists whose ideas we never hear because they can't, get on the same platforms or access the same resources as people who work in English?
That's right.
Yeah, it's not fair.
And it's not just about individual scientists either.
Okay.
Think about entire scientific traditions that exist in other languages.
Right.
We could be overlooking entire fields of knowledge.
Right, because they're not in English.
Yeah, just because of that.
That's great.
It really makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like, what if we embraced all that linguistic diversity?
What kind of amazing things could we learn?
Exactly. I mean, think about, like, traditional Chinese medicine.
Okay, yeah.
Or, like, the astronomical knowledge of indigenous cultures.
Right. There's so much out there.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And I think that's where curiosity comes in.
Okay.
We need to be more open to learning about the world.
Yeah.
About different languages and cultures and different ways of understanding things.
Right. We can't be stuck in our own little bubble.
Exactly.
Like, we need to decolonize our whole idea of science.
Right.
It's not this one thing. It's all these different ways of knowing.
Yeah. All connected.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is we can start exploring this right now.
Exactly.
We don't need to travel anywhere.
Nope.
We just need to be curious.
Right.
And find those resources and connect with different communities.
It's all about opening ourselves up.
Yeah. Expanding what we think of as science. A more inclusive view of knowledge.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And it all comes back to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The beauty and power of the Arabic language.
Right. Like all those amazing scholars.
Yeah.
From centuries ago.
The next time you hear algorithm.
Yeah.
Or you use algebra. Just think about the journey those words took.
Right. From Baghdad to our computers.
From the 9th century to today.
It's amazing.
Those words carry a whole scientific tradition that still influences us.
It's a good reminder that knowledge has no boundaries and that people have always been like figuring things out.
All over the world.
Yeah, no matter where or when they lived.
It's been great exploring this with you.
It has. Thanks for diving into this with me.
Of course.
And thanks to you, our listeners, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you learned something new.
And that you stay curious.
Keep diving deep.